Welcome to another Tech Help Quick Queries video. This is number 10. I can't believe I've done 10 of these already. Wow. This is where I answer questions emailed into me or posted on my YouTube channel or in the forums on my website. I try to answer your questions that may or may not need videos on their own. But yeah, that's what I do here. So check it out. Here we go. Ready? Posted a little article on my website on 420. 420. That's my dad's birthday, by the way. About why I repeat stuff in my lessons. And this was actually a posting of a video that I saw on TikTok. That's awesome. It's a video on spaced repetition, and it's basically about how the more that you are exposed to something, the better your brain is at retaining it. You know, right after you learn something, you start forgetting it, so you got to be exposed to it again, and then if they forget it again, if you keep getting exposed to the same or similar material in a relatively short amount of time, your brain retains it better. It's like pathways, walking across the lawn, right? The more that you walk across a particular patch of lawn, the more entrenched that path becomes. There was a story somewhere I read about a college campus that they had a big lawn and the students would cut across it. And they wanted to know where to put the sidewalks. And the one guy was just like, well, let's wait to the end of the semester and see where the paths are. And that's where we'll put sidewalks. It's a great story. But that's how your brain works too. The more certain memories are entrenched in your neurons. I'm not a neuroscientist, but that's from the reading that I've done. That's what I understand. But anyways, a lot of you, I got comments 50. I just picked Johnny Bingham's comment here. I got a lot of comments on this email, post, whatever. And a lot of you are like, yeah, that's awesome. That's how I like to learn. A lot of you don't. So I'm curious to hear from more of you in the comments. Tell me what you think. Do you like my method? I like to, and this is what I told Johnny here. I like to do it to where I'll show you something and then I'll put a little spin on it. I'll put a little twist on it, right? Like lesson 1 might be DLookup with looking up an ID. Then I'll show you how to do the same thing, but you're looking up a date or you're looking up a string value because those have to be handled differently. Then I'll show you how to do it with 2 criteria or an inequality, right? And then we'll add the NZ function. So it's building on the previous one, and I like to spin a little bit. But sometimes just repetition, like for beginners especially, building a form. I know in my beginner series I show you 3 or 4 different times how to do the same stuff with building forms. I try to add a couple little tricks here and there, but it's mostly the same stuff, and you get it because you do it multiple times. I've been doing this stuff for almost 30 years, and so I've done it a million times, and I know that for me, a lot of the times it didn't stick until I'd seen it 2 or 3 or 4 times. Made the same mistakes, in fact, and then I went back and I recalled, I'm like, oh yeah, I did figure this out 2 years ago and forgot it. So if you don't see it, you forget it, right? That's how I think, that's how I teach. This is an email that I got from one of my longtime students, Dan Z, and he kept saying that he's getting database in use when trying to compact the database, but he's the only user. His computer isn't on a network, and he's the only one. He shut down and restarted, all that stuff. He would go into his database and then do a compact and repair, and it would always say database is in use. And after several emails back and forth, we determined that the problem is that he's got that drive being saved in Google Drive Sync, which is awesome. I use it myself, the Google Backup, which comes with Google Drive on your PC. And basically you can take like your entire documents folder, everything, it'll get saved up in the cloud in your Google Drive. So you can access it from any machine, if you're on your laptop, if you're traveling, whatever. But the problem is that Google is constantly trying to back up the files in that folder. And that's one of the reasons why I say don't run your Access database out of online storage, even something that's like a synced folder that's being backed up, okay? Because Access needs exclusive rights to that file. And if you're using Google Drive and it's trying to back it up, Access is going to say, can't do it. The file's already open. All right, so you can pause Google's syncing down in your system tray. There's an icon. You can right-click on it. You can pause Google. But that's a pain every time you want to compact. So what I recommend is keep your Access database in a folder that is not automatically synced to Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever else you're using. And then have a backup routine inside of Access. So you can do it manually, or you can do it whenever you close your database, or you can do it when, a timed interval, 2 a.m., have your database backed up to a folder that is backed up to Google Drive. That's what I do. I have mine running, I think, at 4 a.m. every morning. It takes the database, it copies it over to a Google sync folder, and that gets copied up to the cloud. And I do it several times throughout the day too, manually. I'll put a link to my backup video down below. And of course, if you're having any kind of wacky problems whatsoever, always check my troubleshooter. And I wouldn't have even thought this if he emailed me a couple times. We went back and forth, and I just, in my mind, I just start to mentally go down this, right? Back up your database, restart access, and I got just one of the first questions I asked him, after I thought about it, of course, was, are you using any online storage? Are you running this like over Google Drive or Dropbox? And at first he said no, but then we figured out that he is running it in a local folder on his C drive, but that folder is being synced up to Google Drive, and that's causing the problem. So here's a question from one of my students on my website, Ludwig. He says, we're a company that sells kitchens. We have 45 independent outlets that sell the kitchens for us, but those outlets have their own salespeople, work planners. Now I've got a point of sale table and an orders table. My question is, where do I put the salespeople, the work planners, as fields in a table? I would say the point of sale T, but each independent point of sale has its own salespeople. I'm stuck here. Okay, so basically, your tables should each contain the same kind of stuff. Okay? Salespeople are salespeople regardless of who they work for. So you're going to have a salesperson table that I would put all of the salespeople in. Okay? Now, if you want to track where those salespeople work, then you would have a table to track the outlets, maybe your outlet T. And that outlet would have its own ID, okay? Then in your work planner, in your salespeople table, you would then give them an outlet ID. And if they work for multiple outlets, like if the same salesperson works for 3 or 4 outlets, then that has to be a many-to-many relationship. But if it's only just they only work at one outlet, then that's a simpler, regular, normal relationship. Okay, so I would have outlets, an outlet table, a salesperson table where you could track each one of those. The point of sale T, now you can also track who the outlet is or the salesperson is in the order. That's up to you. If the salesperson, again, only works for one particular outlet, then you'd only need to store the salesperson. But if they can work for multiple outlets, it gets a little trickier then too. But it can't hurt you to save both. You could save the outlet and the salesperson in the point of sale table. Okay? And again, this is why it's beautiful to build your own database, because you're not stuck with someone else's software. You can change it and make it do exactly what you want it to do. But that's how I would do it. I'd have an outlet table, a salesperson table. The relationship there depends on the work relationship, right? And then your order table could then store all the related information. Not exactly sure what your point of sale is. Is that a physical location? Right, you got outlets, you got workers, you got point of sale, and you got orders. What exactly is a point of sale? So I would need more information to really help you with this one. But do what I do in my association database. Go watch that. I spent a lot of time laying all the different tables and the fields and stuff out. Right? In fact, the whole part 1 is just me going over the different tables and fields and determining what I need and laying it out and setting it up. So go watch this again if you haven't watched it already. Okay? All right. And if you need more help, post a follow-up in the forums and show me some screenshots of what you got so far. It's easier sometimes if it's easier to help someone if I can see what they've got going on. And I don't take file attachments, so don't send me your database, but you could post screenshots of all your forms and your tables and all your relationships and stuff right in the forums. Okay? Okay. Here's another question from the forums. One of my students, Richard, said, is there a limit to how many records you can have in one table? Well, 2 gigabytes is the maximum size of a database file. Okay? So if you had just one table in the database, that would do it. Then I went and decided, you know me, lately I've been playing a lot with the AI bots. So I asked ChatGPT, Bing, and Bard the same question. ChatGPT said in Access 2019, the maximum number of records you can have is 2 billion. Okay. I guess they have to be really, really tiny records. Bing says, according to Microsoft support, there's no specific limit on the number of records, but the maximum file size is 2 gigabytes. That's a better answer. I like that. The maximum size for any individual table is 1 gigabyte. I wasn't aware of that limitation. Now, if we go to Microsoft's website, right on Microsoft's website, Microsoft.com, all right, maximum size for an Access database, 2 gigabytes minus the space for system objects, okay. And if we scroll down to tables, it says table size, 2 gigabytes minus the space needed for the system objects. So, yeah, I don't know, Bing, you didn't read Microsoft's website correctly, I guess. I haven't tested this myself, but I'm curious to see. Maybe Maybe I'll make a supplemental video and run through it and see what the max size I can make a table is before it crashes. And then it says the maximum size of a single record within the table is 2 kilobytes, excluding memo fields, long text fields, and OLE objects, which we don't use, OLE objects. So if all the records are maxed out, a table could hold 1 gigabyte / 2 kilobyte, 524,000 records. I really want to test this. But I don't have time today for it, maybe in a future video. But Bard then comes along and says maximum number of records is 2 gigabytes. Not technically correct, but okay, minus the space need for system objects. However, you can work around this, and it mentions linking multiple database files, each of which can be 2 gigabytes. That's a pretty good answer. I don't mind that answer. And then I gave my thoughts on, realistic values for your table. Like I have an order detail table that at the time had 800,000 records in it. Right, and the file size is only 38 megs because it's a matter of how big each record is. It's not just the maximum number of records. And then Kevin Yip, contributor, says the maximum record count is about 2 billion because the record count property stores as a long integer, which this makes perfect sense. It sounds reasonable. Again, I might run through and test some of this stuff a little bit later on. But in a realistic database, you're never going to hit these limits unless you've got tons and tons of data, because you can split between multiple tables and all that stuff. And if you really got that much data, that's about the time you want to start moving your data up to a database server like SQL Server. The average small business database, you're never going to run into these limits. I have built hundreds of databases for small companies, and not a single one of them has ever had a problem, unless they were doing something silly. Here's a question from Joan, one of my students. We're talking about the SubDatasheets in Access, where you get the little plus and minus, and you can open it up to show the related tables, right? Joan wanted to know how to open and close those with the keyboard. I didn't even know how to do it myself. I had to Google it, but it's Control-Shift down and Control-Shift up, right? Okay, new to me. All right, here I am in the order table. All right, Control-Shift up and down. Wait, let's see. Hold on. Control-Shift down. No, that's not doing it. Hold on. Here I am in the order table, right? Control-Shift down. Control-Shift up. Look at that, right? Down, up. I'll never remember this. There are so many keyboard shortcuts, but I'm not going to make a separate shortcut video out of this like I sometimes do, but that's a pretty cool trick if you use it. I never use SubDatasheets, and I think I mentioned this in my SubDatasheets video, right? This guy, I don't use it. I really don't. I mean, it's an okay tool for you, the developer, but I never give access to my end users to this. No. But if you are the kind of person that uses them and you like that keyboard shortcut trick, well, there you go. Gary asks, why when I'm working on a form or report and I want to change the record source, why don't I click the ... to expand the query builder right in the form? Right, you're working on a form and you want to make changes, you want to base it on a query, whatever, you come over here, you hit ... Now, right now, it says you invoke the query builder on a table. Okay, do you want to create a query based on the table? I can say yes, it'll come in here, I can make whatever changes I want now, right? This and whatever. All right, now when you save this guy, okay, it slaps the SQL right in here instead of creating a whole new query over here for it. All right, and if you see, if I zoom in, Shift F2, there's the query that I just basically created in the query builder. Generally, the reasons why I don't use this thing is because if I'm going to make a form off a query, which is rare, all right, I want to make a query for it. Right, and I said 9 times out of 10, I try to build my forms directly off of tables. All right, because I want the data in the form to be based on one table. If I want some lookup fields, I'll put a DLookup on the table or on the form, for example. Okay. I usually almost always build my forms off of tables. And if I do build a query that I'm going to use for the form, chances are I'm going to use that query in multiple forms or in a form and a report. So I want the query so that I can use that. And if I make a change to the query, it's going to also update the other places that it's used. I almost never want an SQL statement here, unless it's an SQL statement that I'm manipulating in my VB code. I do that a lot. Like I'll have a lot of list forms like this, not this guy, but like this guy, right? Where I'll have like maybe filtering or sorting up here. And this form is controlling that record source. But in that case, still, I have this based on a table because then it loads faster. There's lots of reasons why, but that's why you almost never see me use it, because I just don't, right? Simple forms I have based on a straight table. And if I am going to make a query for it, I'm going to make a query for it. And then I'm going to have that query in multiple places. So that's why. Ikra says, reaching data limit to make multiple backends, good idea or not? Sure. I got lots of them. I have most of my secure data stored in SQL Server, obviously, but I still use access tables for a lot of stuff. Contacts and emails and lots of things that are less secure. You can have 20 backend files if you want, and there's basically no limit. I mean, there's probably a limit. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'd have to Google it, but I've never run into it, and I've built databases with 30, 40, 50 backend links. So, yeah, knock yourself out. Elad asks, how can we do this action without the shortcut? He's referring to my shortcut keys video, where you can press Control single quote to get the data from the previous records field, same field. He's looking for a way to refer in codes to the previous record. I'm assuming you mean you want like a VB solution. Well, that is going to basically involve knowing how to look up the previous record in code. If you want to be able to click a button, for example. I wouldn't necessarily rely on the auto number, the ID. They're usually in sequence, but not always. The best way to do this would be to date timestamp all of your records, so that when a record is created, you store a date time of the now when that was saved. Then what you could do is you could do a dmax and look up the largest timestamp that's less than the record you're on, and then you could DLookup the value that way. That's one way to do it, but I would need to know a lot more about how your tables are set up and stuff like that. But that's what I would do. I'll put a link to the dmax function down below in the links section for you. If you need more help than that, post something in the forum on my website, along with maybe a shot of what your forms or your tables look like, so we can get more information. Leo Marid asks, if I use MySQL as my database, is the storage in the tables increase? Is the query I run more than 2 gigabytes? Well, I honestly have never used MySQL. I don't know. I can't answer that. You could probably Google that and find the information out. Now, SQL Server, which is what I recommend, definitely can store more than 2 gigabytes. So you shouldn't have any problems there. But I don't know. I've never used MySQL. So go talk to a MySQL guy. Sorry. I'm Access and SQL Server. That's it. Diego wants to know if there's any way to replicate an auto number in an insert query. If by replicate you mean having more than one record with the same auto number, no, can't do it. That's not what auto numbers are for. Auto numbers are so every record in that table has a unique value, and that's what they're there for. Now, there's tricks to get an auto number back, or you can use a foreign key, some other type of key to have a duplicated value like that, but not an auto number, no. I got tons of different videos on auto numbers. Go watch these. Auto numbers are one of the most misunderstood things in Access, and they're very powerful, but you got to understand the limitations of them. Right? Lots of different stuff on auto numbers. Nicholas is talking about my double lookup, my DLookup on 2 criteria. And in my video, I do a state and a city. And both of those are text values, right? Text, New York and Buffalo. And those have to be inside of quotes, inside the string, with an and in there. And Nicholas is saying you can't get it to work with the first criteria is a date and the second is an ID field. Well, an ID field's a number, so you don't need any fancy stuff around that. Just ID equals and then the number, okay? Dates have to be inside of pound signs. All right, now if you go to my DLookup page, all right, go to this page. This is the prerequisite for that other video. That's why I tell you to watch the prerequisites, guys. Okay, on this page, if you scroll down a little bit, here's all the common formats, right? It's DLookup field, where you're looking it up, and then the criteria. Now here, if you just got a simple hard-coded ID, that's it. Customer ID equals 5. All right, let me zoom in for you here. All right, if the number is outside the string, you're getting it off of a field or a variable, for example, it looks like that. Okay. Text strings, like I show in the video, looks like that. Dates have to be inside of pound signs. All right, so if your date field is last order date, then it's got to look like this. Okay, and then of course there's two of them. So if you've got an ID and a date, it's going to be order date equals pound sign, date, pound sign, and then your ID equals blank like that. All right, you put it all together, and you do the hokey pokey, and you spin yourself around, or whatever the lyrics are. Okay, so I know this stuff is tricky. It's basically numbers, nothing, dates, pound signs, text strings, get quotes. Okay, that's just simple rules. That's all. Okay. Okay. Jessica is talking about my split database video. Says if for some reason when we do this, it gives us an error that it's not a valid path. When I open it on my computer, there are no issues, and the backend is exactly where the path says, and everyone has access to that server but is unable to open the front end. I followed your instructions exactly. Any idea why? First of all, it's got to be exactly the same name. So if it's z:\database or whatever your share name is on one computer, it's got to be that way on all of them, including the server. If it's // server, if you're using UNC naming conventions, it's got to be the same everywhere. I mean, you can do, if it's server database on some machines and Z database, as long as it's pointing to the same server, that's okay. You can get away with that. But it's best if it's all the same. Another thing, make sure that everyone has read-write access to that directory. All right, everybody's got to be able to read and write files there. If they can see it, but they can't write to it, then they're gonna get a problem. So see if they can create a text file or make a folder or something in that database folder. They use an access database. You got to have read and write access. I know a lot of people just want to give read-only access. Doesn't work that way. So that's it. This is one of those problems that without being there, without seeing it, there could be 50 things. I don't know. I really can't tell you. It's probably a networking issue and not an access issue, though. So that's my 2 cents. I know especially back in like the 90s and the early 2000s when I used to set up networks, and I'd go in and set up 20 computers on a Windows network and get everybody working properly, and then the access database won't work on 3 of them for some reason, and everything's mapped the same, and I pull my hair out. Turns out it's a bad network card. It could be anything. I had a woman once, her computer would just randomly reboot. We basically rebuilt the whole computer from scratch, and it turned out to be a short in her keyboard. Believe it or not, when she plugged that keyboard in, because I'd take the CPU box back to my office. It worked fine. We'd replace the motherboard, replace memory, bring it to her office, plug it in. 20 minutes later, it locked up or restarted. It was a bad keyboard. So you never know. I love computers. I really do. Anything. There's a gremlin somewhere. I don't know. Christopher says he saw a video in which I show how to fix reports when using a combo box, where it shows the field value and not the ID number. I think what you mean is, a lot of people ask me this question, and I don't think I have a video on specifically this, but a lot of people try to make a report that's based on a table, and the table might have something. Let's say it's an invoice ID, right? Or a customer ID on an invoice, and you want to display the customer's name, not the customer ID. What you do in that case is you make a query that brings together the customer table and the order table, and then you can have the customer name in the report because it's based on the query. So make a query first, bring all the fields together that you want, then use that for the report. Okay? If you watch my invoicing video, for example, here's the order table, right? The order detail information from the query and the customer table. You can bring in the first name, last name, whatever off of the customer's record to be displayed on your invoice because you make a query out of it. So go watch the invoicing video for more information on that. All right, that's going to do it for today's Quick Queries video. I hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and post any comments you may have below. I do try to read and answer all of them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. Click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Want to learn more? Click the Show More link below the video to find additional resources and links. YouTube does a pretty good job of hiding it. It's right down there. See this part of the description here, right? The name, the video's up here. There's a little Show More down there, right down the bottom. It's kind of hard to find. But once you click on that, you'll see a list of other videos, additional information related to the current topic, free lessons, and lots more. And YouTube no longer sends out email notifications when new videos are posted like they used to do. But if you'd like to get an email every time I post a new video, click on the link to join my mailing list. And you can pick how frequently to get emails from me, either as they happen, daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, if you'd like to become a paid member of my channel and receive all kinds of awesome perks, click on the Join button. You'll see a list of all the different membership levels that are available, each with its own special perks, including my extended cut videos, access to my code vault, lots of VBA source code in there, template downloads, and lots more. I'll talk more about these perks at the end of the video. Even if you don't want to commit to becoming a paid member and you'd like to help support my work, please feel free to click on the tip jar link. Your patronage is greatly appreciated and will help keep these free videos coming. I got some puppies to feed. But don't worry, no matter what, these free tech help videos are going to keep coming. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making more, and they'll always be free. Now, if you really want to learn Access and you haven't tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, and more. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? The whole thing, free, 4 hours. Go watch it. And okay, a lot of you have told me that you don't have time to sit through a 4-hour course. So I do now have a quicker Microsoft Access for Beginners video that covers all the basics faster in about 30 minutes. And no, I didn't just put the video on fast forward. But I'll put a link to this down below as well. Now, if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it, $1. And that's another whole 90-minute course. Level 2 is also free for paid members of any level, including supporters. So if you're a member, go watch level 2. It's free. Okay, want to get your question answered in a video just like this one? Visit my tech help page and send me your question there. Members get priority, of course. While I do try to read and respond to all of the comments posted below in the comments section, I only have time to go through them briefly a couple of times a month, and sometimes I get thousands of them. So send me your question here on the Tech Help page, and you'll have a better chance of getting it answered. And while you're on my website, be sure to stop by my Access forum. We've got lots of lively conversations about Microsoft Access and other topics. I have a fantastic group of moderators who help me answer questions. Shout out to Alex, Kevin, Scott, Adam, John, Dan, Juan, and everybody else who helps out on the site. I appreciate everything you do. I couldn't do it without you. Be sure to follow my blog, find me on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Yeah, I'm on Facebook too, but I don't like Facebook. Don't get me started. Now, let's talk more about those member perks if you do decide to join as a paid member. There are different levels: Silver, Gold, Platinum, and Diamond. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, one free beginner class every month, and some other perks. Gold members get all the previous perks, plus access to download the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos, plus access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions that I use, the code that I build in most of the videos. You'll also get higher priority if you do submit any tech help questions. Now, answers are never guaranteed, but you do go higher in the list for me to read them. And if I like your question, you got a good chance of it being answered. You'll also get one free expert level class each month after you've finished the beginner series. Platinum members get all the previous perks plus even higher priority for tech help questions. You get access to all of my full beginner level courses for every subject. And I cover lots of different subjects like Word, Excel, VBA, ASP, lots of different stuff, not just Access. These are the full-length courses found on my website. You get all the beginner ones. In addition, once you finish the expert classes, you get one free developer class per month. So lots of training. And finally, you can also become a Diamond sponsor. You'll have your name or your company name listed on a sponsors page that will be shown on each video as long as you're a sponsor. You'll get a shout out in the video and a link to your website or product in the text below the video and on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you again soon.